Hey guys, um, this is a video that I've been wanting to do, and I think the time is appropriate for me here in New England. These are my choices for cold water lure presentations, and when I mean cold water, I mean water that's below 50 degrees. The ice is when the ice goes out, that water temperature is in the upper 30s and low 40s, and you can catch bass on artificials, but it's a challenge for sure. And bass are really sluggish, and they're not usually in the mood to chase a lot. So you've got to present them with something that requires minimal effort on their part to move to get the bait. And they want to expend as little energy as possible. So one of the things that I like to use during that time is what's called a silver buddy. This is a silver buddy, and it's basically like a bladed lipless crankbait. It has that weight on the front, and I'll be honest with you, I hate throwing this bait. This is not a bait that I like throwing any other time of the year. This is not a fun bait for me to fish with. This is not the way that I like to catch fish. A lot of guys will jig this. You know, they'll rip it down to the bottom, let it hit on the bottom, and then pop it up. And I will do that too. I'll also I'll burn it as much as I can, and you know, you can get bit on this. This is a really good cold water presentation here in New England, just after ice out, and it is effective. However, just give me the warm temps, because this is not my favorite way to fish. But this is effective enough to be mentioned here. Another thing that I like to do is bounce a jig, and I'm not a jig fisherman. I find much more effective ways and frankly more entertaining ways to catch fish throughout the year, as the water temperature warms up and fish start chasing more and going into their more predictable locations. But early, when the fish are holding tight to their feeding places and are in deeper water, I will throw this jig. I will put a trailer on it. This is a Bass Pro Shops craw trailer, and this is a really good pair. This is a jewel jig, and this works really well for me when the fish are sluggish, and I will catch fish on these on this setup early, and I mean floating chunks of ice still around the lake, cold water. So the rest of the year, no. So and I mentioned this yeah, as one of my top 5 search baits, but this is a floating Smithwick Rogue, and jerk baits, hard jerk baits are really effective in the cold. This is a clown colored X-Wrap. This is probably my go-to. A clown pattern works really well up here, and this bigger profile is really good just after ice out, and this is a really good way to get bit, particularly with smallmouth. If you can find any kind of riprap or a rocky bank that kind of dips into the water at an angle, you rip this through there. It's a really, really good way to catch fish in cold water. They don't like chasing, but they will chase a jerkbait for some weird reason, and I don't understand why. You can't get them to chase a lot of other baits, but they will chase a jerkbait in the cold. And here's a smaller profile. This is a Bass Pro Shops XPS jerkbait, but hard jerkbaits work really well. Soft jerkbaits work equally as well, if not better, in the cold water, and these are three of my favorites. This is a nice finesse presentation. This is a Trigger X jerk shad, and it has that little hook cavity. So the hook goes in here and sits in that cavity, and can be hooked weedless. Not that there's a lot of weeds. Just after the ice goes out, that doesn't come for another month and a half or so, but it's a really good presentation, guys. And this is a Zoom fluke. I know a lot of you guys fish flukes. Flukes are great up here, and you know, this is just a really good way to fish this bait. And what I do is I just kind of just let that hook sit on the back like that, and sometimes if I'm fishing in weeds, I'll tuck that tip in there, but early it's not necessary to do that. And this is just a really great presentation, pretty much year round. I mean, fishing fluke baits is fun, and I like to fish them weightless, and just let the bait sink. The only weight is on this Gamakatsu wide gap hook, and this can be really fun, and sometimes the only way to get bit, depending on where you're fishing and the conditions. But under the right conditions, soft jerk baits. And this is a larger presentation. This is a Sluggo, a Lunker City Sluggo. I've been using Sluggos for a long time, and they haven't changed. It's a really consistent bait, and it works for me. So, jerk baits, and then the last one. You know, it's really hard to go wrong with this. I've caught more bass early, big bass, fish, you know, over 3 pounds, on this spinnerbait. And this is a finesse bait. It's a little bit smaller. It's a 1/4 ounce spinnerbait. It has this finesse blade. You can see that finesse blade. But this is a War Eagle, you know, white chartreuse, any kind of shad pattern. Works really well in cold water. And I kind of slow roll it. You know, it's important to change your cadence early, and really slow roll that spinnerbait. Let it drop down, and then pull it up, drop it down, pull it up. Let that blade just kind of roll and roll as that bait drops, and you'll get bit on the drop more often than not. And you just really slow that retrieve. Don't expect too much from the fish. You know, they're not going to go out of their way. So you've got to really drop that bait into their house, and you know, make them commit. And I find that a spinnerbait is really hard to beat under the right conditions. You know, it can be, you can have a 45-degree water temperature, but it could be, you know, 75 degrees outside. That's just how it is in New England. You could have a beautiful day to fish, bluebird skies, 75 degrees and a cold water temperature because just that temperature, that air temperature, hasn't been consistent, and you're just starting to get into spring temps. So, and that's kind of the situation that we got going on here now. So if you've got a good day to fish, these methods are good ways to get fish in the boat, and for you guys that fish in the Northeast, it's not about numbers. It's not a numbers game early. It's you're happy to get that one fish. You go out and if you get a few or even one, particularly if it's a good one, then you're happy. I know I've had outings where I've gone out and fished all day. You fish 8 hours, beautiful conditions, cold water, and you get one bite, but it could be the right bite, and you could catch a 5-pounder early. Most of my bigger fish come early, and these are the presentations that I use early when that water temperature is under 50 degrees. Once that water temperature kicks up into the 50s, fish are starting to think about spawning. They're starting to move towards that mode. And then when that happens, you change your approach. It's back to the drawing board, and that's another discussion for another time. But anyway, that's my cold water bait presentations, and if any of you other guys out there have anything to add, I'd love to hear your comments. And again, this isn't any expert advice at all, so please don't take it as that. This is just my interpretation and what works for me over years of experience, trial and error, experimentation. So thanks for watching, and yeah, thanks. Bye.